So, have you ever sat down, stared at a goal you set 100 times before, and just wondered why on earth you can't seem to stick to it? You probably think the problem is motivation, right? Like, you just need to feel ready before you act. You figure maybe one more book, one more inspirational quote, or waiting for that absolute perfect moment is going to finally unlock that ideal version of yourself. But look, here's some tough love. You are not inconsistent because you lack willpower. You're inconsistent because you've basically built your entire life around a lie. I'm talking about the toxic myth that motivation actually matters. Because guess what? It really doesn't. Welcome to This Explainer. I am absolutely thrilled to have you here today because we're going to completely dismantle that motivation trap. Let's just dive right into this. We are going to replace that exhausting emotional roller coaster of trying to get motivated with a cold, reliable, and honestly bulletproof 6-step framework. We're talking about building a literal operating system for your life, one that makes consistency absolutely inevitable.
Here is our roadmap for today. We'll start by exposing the motivation lie, then move into designing your environment, locking in the pattern, the comeback rule, data removes delusion, and finally, becoming the system.
Starting off with Section 1, the motivation lie. This is the core problem we all face, isn't it? It's that stubborn belief that taking action requires some massive surge of inspiration. On one side, we have the motivation trap, which relies entirely on feelings. You know the drill. You're constantly waiting for the perfect moment. But because consistency is hard, waiting for it to suddenly feel easy just means you end up bleeding days into weeks and weeks into months. You end up failing the exact same way you have for years. Now contrast that with the automated structure on the other side, the operating system. This is all about automated execution and structured autopilot. It literally doesn't care how you feel today. You don't need more motivation. You need a system that keeps running flawlessly even when your motivation has completely left the building. Moving right along to Section 2, designing your environment.
Okay, so if we aren't relying on our feelings, we have to rely on the physical world around us. And what's super fascinating here is just how specific we need to get. Did you know that the vast majority of resolutions fail purely because they're just these vague intentions floating around in your head? Your brain simply doesn't execute vague. It executes specific. You've got to anchor your habits to reality. Seriously, put your workout clothes right on your bed before you go to sleep. Put the book you want to read directly on your pillow. You have to make that very first step so incredibly obvious that doing the habit actually takes significantly less energy than avoiding it.
So, the crucial takeaway is this dynamic right here. We need to completely engineer your friction. Think about it. If you want to journal, but the notebook is buried in a drawer somewhere, or you want to stop scrolling, but your phone is sitting right beside you, well, you're building a life where the wrong things are easy and the right things are incredibly hard. You have to burn that structure to the ground. Make your good habits absolutely effortless by stripping away every single obstacle, and at the exact same time, make your bad habits utterly exhausting. Put that phone in another room. Every extra step you put between yourself and a bad choice acts like a protective shield for your goals.
All right, Section 3, locking in the pattern.
Now we take that physical environment we just designed and apply it directly to your schedule. If you keep telling yourself you'll do your work whenever you have time, well, I can guarantee you one thing for sure. You will literally never have time. See, your brain runs on patterns. When you do something at the exact same time in the exact same location every single day, your nervous system actually starts prepping for it before you even make the conscious decision to act. It's wild. You need to pick one time and one location and lock it in like a doctor's appointment you absolutely cannot cancel. 6 a.m. at the gym, 9 p.m. at your desk. Honestly, it doesn't really matter what you pick. What matters is that it never, ever changes. This kind of repetition isn't boring, it's programming. You're physically teaching your body that this action is non-negotiable. Which brings us to Section 4, the comeback rule. 2. This single number is your absolute safeguard. Because let's just face reality for a second. You are going to mess up. We all do. But the golden rule is this: never miss twice. A lot of folks miss one day, think they've completely failed, assume the unbroken streak was the whole point, and then just throw in the towel. But listen, the streak is just a tool. The actual, real point of consistency is the comeback. Missing once? That's just normal human behavior. Missing twice? Well, now that's a choice. Let's look at how this plays out in a normal week. If you end up skipping the gym on Monday, you get yourself there on Tuesday, no matter what happens. If you don't write your pages on Wednesday, you sit down and you write on Thursday, even if what you produce is completely terrible. One miss is totally forgiven. 2 misses, though, is the start of a brand new negative identity. And let me tell you, once a bad identity takes root, breaking it takes a war. So remember this. True consistency isn't built by people who never fail. It's built by people who fail once and then flat out refuse to fail twice. Section 5. Data removes delusion. This is where we protect ourselves from our own deceptive minds. You might feel like you've been pretty consistent lately, but let me be real with you. Feelings lie. Your brain will so conveniently remember the 3 awesome days you had and just magically forget the 5 days you completely skipped. The hard truth is, if you aren't tracking it, you aren't actually doing it. You need a visible system. Draw a big, bold, physical X on a calendar, or check a box. It absolutely doesn't need to be fancy, but it has to be visible. Why? Because when you see a growing chain of X's, your brain intrinsically does not want to break it. And on the flip side, when you see those stark, empty, blank spaces, you just can't lie to yourself anymore. Hard data physically removes the delusion.
And finally, Section 6, becoming the system.
This right here is the ultimate payoff for everything we've just built. The reason consistency often feels like this brutal uphill fight is that you're trying to do things without actually being someone. You're trying to act consistently without actually seeing yourself as a consistent person. You have to change your internal language. Stop acting like someone who merely tries. Stop saying, oh, I'm trying to work out. No, start saying, I train, I read, I show up. Every single action is a vote. Your brain fiercely protects your identity. If you see yourself as someone who quits, guess what? You're going to quit. But if you fully adopt the identity of someone who finishes, you will always find a way to get it done. Every single time you execute this system, every time you toss those clothes on the bed, show up at 6 a.m., or bounce back from a missed day, you are casting a very real vote for the person you're becoming. One vote becomes another, and eventually, that person you were pretending to be, they become real. So I want to leave you with this final thought. You now know the lie of motivation, and you have the exact operating system you need to replace it. You know how to design your environment, how to lock in your patterns, how to engineer your comebacks, and how to track your data so you can reshape your very identity. The only question left is this. Are you going to keep bleeding days into months, just waiting to feel ready? Or will you step up and become the system? The choice is entirely yours. Thanks so much for joining me on this explainer, and I'll catch you next time.